You will drown in eternal night.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel and to another Mortal Kombat mobile character review. Today we are taking a closer look at Circle of Shadow Liu Kang. We will go through all of his basic attacks, his special attacks, his X-ray and everything else he brings to MK Mobile. Circle of Shadow Liu Kang is part of the martial artist / Netherrealm class, and his passive is called Overwhelming Darkness. When Liu Kang starts a match, he has 100% critical hit chance and his opponent is stunned for 5 seconds. In Faction Wars, 35% chance for lethal blow, which equals plus 300% damage. Lethal blows heal all Circle of Shadow teammates for 15% of the damage dealt. And in terms of synergy, Circle of Shadow characters do 10% more damage versus Strike Force characters. Circle of Shadow Liu Kang was released with update 1.8 on May the 12th, 2016 under the name Dark Emperor Liu Kang. He was a gold card and was released alongside characters such as High-Tech Jackie Briggs, Classic Kano, Dark Lord Kotal Khan, Marksman Kung Jin, Kobujutsu Tanya and Cold War Scorpion. He was maxed out with level 50 and Fusion 7. The description of his old passive also was called Overwhelming Darkness. When Liu Kang starts a match, he has 100% critical chance and his opponent is stunned for 3 seconds. In Faction Wars, 25% chance for lethal blow, which equaled plus 250% damage. He was first obtainable via the Faction War store for 1,600 blood rubies, but there was one occasion where they actually put him in the regular store for 255 souls during a challenge. After the level cap was raised with update 1.18, he is now maxed out with level 60 and Fusion X. Back then he was not a diamond yet. That happened then with update 2.0 and they removed him from the Faction War store and put the challenge card Classic Ermac in his stead, and ever since he was only available via certain packs, and there have been many coming and going over the last few years, months. So here, for the sake of this video, I have put together I think about 8 different packs, but there are probably even a few more where you basically can get Circle of Shadow Liu Kang from. But of course all for a very low drop rate. Liu Kang's gear piece is the red headband and it gives you 45% recovery boost, 35% unblockable chance on basic attacks, which goes for Liu Kang characters only, and 20% power generation boost. In terms of his feats of strength, he will have to perform 1,500 special 2 attacks to unlock his rune. For his victory stances, he will have to win 750 matches in Faction Wars. For his taunts, he will have to knock out 500 Quan Chi enemies. For his icons, he will have to win 500 matches in battle mode. For his backgrounds, he will have to perform 250 X-ray / fatal blow attacks. And for his titles, he has to perform 2000 special 1 attacks. And now we are going to take a closer look at the victory stances one by one, starting with Victory. Next we have Warming Up. Next would be Classic MK Victory. And exclusive for Circle of Shadow Liu Kang only, Respect for the Fallen. and on your victory screen it will look like this. Now I'm going to show you all of his backgrounds. Next up we have the icons. And finally the titles. Circle of Shadow Liu Kang has two kinds of combo enders. The first one consisting of a double punch, then a kick, and going into the combo ender itself we have the same pattern repeating. On his second one he will have 5 punches in a row ending on a kick, lifting the opponent into the air and knocking him down to the ground. His special one attack is called Dragon Fury and it has a snare effect tied to it. This attack is pretty much a signature move for Liu Kang, so it is basically his bicycle kick. It knocks the opponent down to the ground, but also it is capable of knocking out your opponent. His special 2 attack is called Dragon Fire and it of course has a fire debuff tied to it. It is a high damage attack and just as the special one it is also capable of knocking out your opponents. His X-Ray is called for the Shaolin and has also a fire debuff tied to it. And you probably guessed it, so far all Liu Kangs we have in the game have the same X-Ray, so there is nothing new to see here, but of course it looks gorgeous. When it comes to the passive, we first have to mention the healing properties. Every time when lethal blows or lethal attacks occur, then he and his teammates will gain some health back from that. And of course, the higher the attack, the more health you will regain for you and your team. But already as stated in the passive, only Circle of Shadow teams. Now the second one is also very useful and the main reason why people constantly use this card, and that is basically the stun at the beginning of the match, basically putting you in an advantage unless you use gear. Since the first Shira Ryu tower appeared, Liu Kang Diamond characters also have a brutality, and for those who missed the tower they will probably find this pack here every now and then in the store. Once equipped with both brutality gear items, Liu Kang will gain this third combo ender here, as well as having the ability to apply fire to your opponents just by using basic attacks. And another one, of course, if you are using the talent from the talent tree, Brutal Ending, you basically can take out a character directly with this special combo ender during a mid-match brutality. Of course, at the end of a fight, if only one character remains, you get the full brutality, including the brutality logo, and he will spout out that little line, "You will wither and fade." So now it's time to recommend some gear again, and my first choice would be the Wrath Hammer, plus 20% attack and the Bar of Power. That is always great for Liu Kang, even though there is always the risk that you might get power drained, especially because you usually would use Circle of Shadow Liu Kang as your opener, and if your opponent uses Blaze's Life Force, that Bar of Power might just be gone. But even if so, you would still have the 20% attack boost. And given that you're already starting with a plus 300% attack boost, adding 20% to that on top is always welcome. Then the second choice is one of his brutality set, the Champion's Nunchaku, which gives you a 40% chance to apply fire on basic attacks, of course when the gear is maxed out. You also have some damage boost against Outworld characters, so that one is already quite useful, but I use it mainly because of the brutality itself. Then to complete the set we have the Champion's Leather Bracers, and here we have the main focus on the extremely high recovery, which means basically when you tag him out and just let him rest outside for a few seconds, he will come back with a significant increased amount of health again. And of course, basically that brutality set is complete, so you can perform your brutalities either mid-match when using Brutal Ending, or at least at the end of the match. And on top it also gives you a certain percentage of lethal blow immunity, 75% when maxed out. But on to gear piece number 4, and here I go with Moloch's Ball and Chain, and I heard that complaint a lot, that he only has his lethal blows when he is played in Faction Wars and nowhere else. It's totally nonsense, because with Moloch's Ball and Chain you just can add that. You also get the chance to have your special attacks unblockable, and on top there is also a chance that your special attack too will be free. But the winner in my book and the best gear piece for Liu Kang is the Red Headband, not only for the 20% power generation, but also the unblockable chance on basic attacks. So this gear piece basically combines two of the most useful perks that we have in the game, period. And if that wasn't enough, it also adds some percentage on top of the recovery boost, especially useful when you're using it together with the Champion's Leather Bracers. And when it comes to my favorite loadout for Circle of Shadow Liu Kang, I would go with Champion's Nunchaku and Champion's Leather Bracers for the brutality, his headband for the power generation and the unblockable basics, plus Moloch's Ball and Chain for unblockable special attacks, free special attack too. And of course I am kind of aware that this one might not be the best setup in terms of gear if you play him as an opener. So in that case, you might want to rethink Moloch's Ball and Chain to either use the Devastator or Blaze's Life Force, but that is totally up to you. If I see Liu Kang as his own entity that doesn't have to be an opener, then the 4 would be my favorite. Moving on to the character recommendation, and here I would first go with Circle of Shadow Sub-Zero, adding massive amounts of damage simply by granting around 15% chance for extra lethal blows. And as you remember, Liu Kang will always start with his massive amount of lethal blows already, at least in Faction Wars, even if not played with Moloch's Ball and Chain, and adding Sub-Zero will give you those lethal blows regardless in what kind of game mode you are playing him. Choice number 2 would be Circle of Shadow Quan Chi, because this guy adds some vampirism to your character on tag-in, at least only to Circle of Shadow characters, which is the case with Circle of Shadow Liu Kang. So basically, if he tags in, he will be able to heal just from basic attacks, and the heal will be basically amplified on top by doing lethal blows, so that is a win-win situation for Liu Kang and every other teammate, because they benefit from that heal as well. Choice number 3 goes to Hellspawn Scorpion, Because keep in mind that Circle of Shadow Liu Kang is a dual class character, so he's also martial artist, and in this case he will get 1.5 bars of power from Scorpion at the beginning of the match. So Scorpion is already a very useful supporter, and in case you want to amplify your attack damage, you can also go with classic Goro, because regardless of who is in his team, he will amplify the attack boost of your teammates when the passive is maxed out by 20%, which means you basically added another Wrath Hammer. And the winner in my book is Circle of Shadow Kung Lao, who basically does the same thing as Hellspawn Scorpion, in this case for Circle of Shadow teammates, by adding 1.5 bars of power. And now of course it's debatable if Hellspawn Scorpion or Circle of Shadow Kung Lao are better, or who of those two is better. In my case I prefer to have the shield on special 2, so Kung Lao has the edge here, and he also gives that extra damage boost versus Strike Force characters, basically what every Circle of Shadow team member does. So Liu Kang is a little bit better supported by Kung Lao than Hellspawn. But if you prefer Hellspawn instead, that's totally fine. Circle of Shadow Liu Kang is easily one of the best diamond characters in the game, and even back then, as he was only a gold card, you could say the same thing. He was one of the best, if not the best, gold card in the game. And now with that diamond transition, that just carried over. With the diamond promotion, Circle of Shadow Liu Kang didn't lose anything significantly, although I find it quite sad that they removed him from the Faction Wars store due to now being diamond, simply because it's now so much harder for newer players to obtain him, and that's such a shame. On the other hand, if you are playing Faction Wars like on a higher level, I mean maxed out cards, mainly maxed out diamond cards, you will constantly encounter Circle of Shadow Liu Kang, which means it cannot be that hard to get him because almost everybody plays him on that level. So yeah, there you have it. You have an amazing card, basically almost to an extent that it annoys you to death to face him because you just see him all the time. But let's have a quick recap on pros and cons, and my first pro here of course has to be the passive, stunning your opponent at the beginning of the match. At least if the opponent is not using the ice bomb on you, that will be a very clear counter and makes him less dangerous. But let's say they don't use that thing and you get that advantage, you do massive damage, you can easily get up to a special attack just while they are stunned. You're dealing basically just enough damage with your basic attacks to take out the first opponent, so that passive is just incredible, especially if you are adding that factor of the heal for yourself and your Circle of Shadow teammates. This passive is wow. Then my next pro would be the snare on special 1. I mean, just think about it. If you are already dealing massive damage and on top you are not letting your opponent go and pretty much just prevent him from tagging out so that you can finish him off for good, that's definitely a massive advantage already at match begin. So even in between you can use that snare. The snare is useful in boss fights, in towers and stuff like that. So snare on special 1, amazing. Then the next pro has to go to the design, and sure, there are so many other pros I could list here, but I really wanted to take a little moment just to show some of my appreciation for the amazing design. I love the armor, I love the dark touch to it. Liu Kang is so much cooler as a Revenant than he has ever been as a normal live human. The only thing that might be funnier would be the zombie variation, but we don't have that for MK Mobile, unfortunately. So far, the Circle of Shadow Liu Kang variation looks the best of all Liu Kangs in the game. Well, then let's get into the negatives as well, and my first one would be that his special one gives the opponent a lot of power, and by that I mean this bicycle kick adds so many mini hits that you can basically see your opponent's power bar fill up. So if that special one does not knock him out, you basically gave him a bar of power, which is a bit sad because usually you would use that special attack to significantly damage your opponent, but instead when they end up on a bone shield or with Revenant or something, they can actually backfire, so that is not always the greatest move to use. Then my second con would be that specials mostly trigger Revenant or bone shields because of the already mentioned several mini hits. It is very easy for the game to say like, yeah, we triggered that shield immediately, basically each time you're using a special attack, so that also can backfire a little bit. And then I already mentioned that in the verdict, the constant encounters of Circle of Shadow Liu Kang, especially in Faction Wars, it is really annoying because it really sometimes seems that players don't have any other ideas what to use. I get that he's a very good card, but on the other hand, how much of a challenge is it if you're constantly opening the game or every match with Circle of Shadow Liu Kang? Then maybe on top even add Assassin Jade. On my channel I've complained a lot about it and always called that like, oh, there is a player that cannot play the game, because when you need Circle of Shadow Liu Kang and Assassin Jade in your team, then it's basically a guaranteed win, and why are you even showing up for that? But no hard feelings though, because I really get it. But let's get to the final rating, and for Circle of Shadow Liu Kang, do you expect anything else but a 10 out of 10? I guess not, because tons of players already proved that point that this card is amazing to use, otherwise he wouldn't be used all the time. He is fast on his basic attacks, he gives health back to his teammates, he has massive damage. This card looks good. Basically, it's all round a perfect package. So 10 out of 10 for Circle of Shadow Liu Kang. And with that, my review for this card is getting to an end, and I hope that you enjoyed this review. As always, from my side, that is all for today. Thanks a lot for watching. So please stay safe, everybody. Take care of each other. And I will be back as soon as there is something new going on in the world of MK Mobile, keeping you up to date with news or gameplay videos or whatever comes to mind. Thank you for tuning in once again. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe. In case you didn't like the video, hit the dislike button twice just to make sure. And if you want to support the channel a little further, please consider joining the Patreon family of KC Mobile Gaming. You can already do that with as little as just $1 a month. And also follow me on social media like Twitter and Facebook. You will find all the necessary information in the description below of every video. If you want to see more content, then why don't you just click on one of those two videos here. Thank you for your support. Have a good one. KC over and out for today.